Good morning to all of you. In our last session, we have discussed about the mechanism of breathing and we have seen the steps of respiration. And the first step was the mechanism of breathing that we have learned. Now, the second step includes exchange of gases. So, in our today's class, we are going to learn about the heading gaseous exchange. Now, basically, the gaseous exchange occur at the two parts, that is alveoli and tissue. The exchange is brought about by simple diffusion, which is based on pressure or concentration gradient. Now, the blood is coming to lungs. That blood takes up the oxygen and the oxygenated blood goes to the body parts. In the tissue, the oxygen is delivered. From the tissues, the carbon dioxide is picked up, and again this carbon dioxide is brought back to lungs, from where it is removed out when you exhale. So basically the gaseous exchange is at alveoli and tissue. Now you very well know what is diffusion, that is movement of material from high concentration to low concentration. So diffusion is dependent on following factors, that is solubility of the gases and thickness of the membrane involved in diffusion. Now here you can see a very simple figure depiction is given that gives you the first site of gaseous exchange, that is alveoli, which is surrounded by a blood capillary. Now when you inhale, the oxygen gets into alveoli. This oxygen gets in the blood and the blood is going to take the oxygen to the tissue. Now same at the tissue, the oxygen will get into the tissue and CO2 will be produced. The CO2 from the tissues is brought by the blood. The CO2 is brought to the level of the lungs, and in the alveoli the CO2 is coming, which is going to go out when you exhale. Now there is one concept of partial pressure, which is a new concept that you need to understand the exchange of gases. Partial pressure is the pressure contributed by individual gas in a mixture of gases, right? So PO2 is a partial pressure for oxygen and PCO2 is the partial pressure for the carbon dioxide. Now let us see the table. This is the table that is giving you the data of the amount of respiratory gases that is present in the different sites where the gaseous exchange occur. Now let us see for the oxygen first. Now in atmosphere the amount of oxygen is 159. When you compare this with alveoli, it's 104. So diffusion says what? That the movement occur from high concentration to low. So the oxygen will move from air to alveoli. Now make a comparison between the capillary that is having the blood which is deoxygenated. So alveoli the oxygen is 104 and the blood which is deoxygenated has a 40. So from alveoli the oxygen will get into blood, the blood get oxygenated and this oxygenated blood gets into tissue. Now the blood will again move the oxygen to tissue because there is a difference of 40 minimum oxygen, that 95 is present in the oxygenated blood and 40 is the value for the tissue. So again the movement will occur from higher concentration to lower concentration. Now let us look out for the carbon dioxide. So CO2 in atmosphere is 0.3, in alveoli it's 40, then in blood it is 45, then again it is 40 and tissue it is 45. So that is why the movement of CO2 always occur in reverse order. How reverse order? From tissue it will come to blood, the blood will get deoxygenated This deoxygenated blood will pass it into alveoli, and from alveoli the movement is occurring to air where its amount is minimum. So this is how the oxygen gets in and carbon dioxide gets out, and this is the value of partial pressure that you are going to see in the table. The data clearly indicate that partial pressure is of oxygen is more in atmosphere and in alveoli and less in tissue for the oxygen, whereas for the carbon dioxide the reverse condition is seen. Now let us see the membrane through which the diffusion occurs. The diffusion is going to occur at the level of alveoli, and it has to pass at least 3 layers. The first layer is the squamous epithelium of alveoli. You can clearly see the alveoli has got a single layer of cell, and that is the squamous epithelia of alveoli. Then next layer is the endothelium of alveolar capillary. You can see the capillary which is having the blood cells. Now only the single layer, endothelium means the layer on the inner side. So endothelium of alveolar capillary is the next layer through which the oxygen has to pass. Now in between these two layers there is a yellow color gap. That gap is known as basement membrane. So these are the 3 layers that oxygen has to cross in order to reach the blood which is having hemoglobin, and this hemoglobin will take oxygen to the level of tissue. So the 3 layers are being crossed, but mind it children, although 3 layers are there, but its thickness is very less, that is less than 2 millimeter. So there are all the factors at the alveoli level which are favoring the exchange of gases or diffusion of oxygen. That is, the large surface area is there, that is, the rich supply of blood is there, and a very thin membrane is there which is having the thickness of less than 2 millimeter. This is a detailed account about the exchange of gases. That's all for the day. You kindly refer NCERT for the details and the notes, and in case of any query you please call. Thank you.